very good evening, everyone, and we are thrilled to welcome each one of you here. And we trust that this session will contribute significantly to your professional journey. Throughout this event, we'll be sharing compelling insights, and to make it even more interactive, we have an engaging Q&A session planned at the end. So have your questions ready, and we'll do our best to address all of them during the Q&A. So I'll be your host for the session and introducing our esteemed guest for the evening. And I'm especially excited for today's session as Ecom Nation is also our partner and client. So, welcome, James, to the session.
Thank you very much. I've been looking forward to it.
Great. So, before we start with the agenda, for the people who have joined the session for the first time, I would like to introduce you guys to our Remote Revolution series. At Uplers, our mission is to streamline the hiring process, making it reliable, easy, and fast. And therefore, Remote Revolution is an initiative wherein we invite speakers from top notch companies like Twilio, GitLab, Atlassian, Browser Tech, and many more to share their insights on how these remote companies hire, their process, culture, values, and interview tips. So, our mission behind this initiative is to upskill you guys to get a job in a top remote brand. So, moving forward to the session agenda, James will take us through his personal journey. He'll share insights into his role. He'll talk about his unique culture at Ecom Nation and his experience working with a remote team. Following that, we'll explore the intricate hiring process at Ecom Nation. And next on the agenda, James will discuss about digital marketing in Australia, some key features of the market, and then we'll discuss why problem solving matters in digital marketing and how you can improve it. So, welcome, James. Without much ado, let's dive into the session. To start with, tell us something about your career, your journey, your role at Ecom Nation.
Yeah, look, fantastic. I just checked that people can hear me because I just saw someone mention that they couldn't, and I just switched the microphone over. If everyone can hear me, that's great. So, yeah, look, so I've been working as was mentioned for about for over 10 years now in digital marketing in various different places. I started as a digital producer, and in Australia, that's kind of like an assistance type role. And I moved from there into a range of different things. I've been a developer, I've been a designer, worked in a lot of major social media accounts within Australia, and slowly made my way over to account management. And I've been an account manager probably for 5 or so years before joining Ecom Nation, where I started as the only employee. And by default, I was the account manager. And then from there, I became I've sort of moved into much more of an internal role where I'm now the general manager for the agency.
Thank you for sharing this inspiring journey with us. And from a digital account manager to the general manager at Ecom Nation, you're really a motivation for all the participants here. And we are honored to have you here with us today and looking forward to some amazing insights on the digital marketing landscape in Australia. So, learning about the
Thank you.
company's history, industry reputation, and performance gives you an insight into its stability and overall standing. Customizing your application and interview responses based on your knowledge of the organization allows you to highlight interview responses based on knowledge. So, knowing about the company is really important. So, having said that, James, could you share some insights on Ecom Nation as an organization?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I'd echo your points there. We one of the things we look for is people who do their homework as part of their interviews. So if they know a little bit about us when they come into the interview, it's a good signal for us. So in terms of Ecom Nation, the agency was started in 2021, about mid 2021. So in Australia, that was sort of well into the period where we were having COVID lockdowns throughout Australia. And the directors of the agency, I've got three directors who sit above me in the agency, decided to start this agency as a fully remote agency, which is not something that's typically done within Australia. So we tend to have a lot of on-premises staff and a lot of very little remote work, except for in a supporting role. But we decided, you know what, we've got really good talent across Australia. We're based in Adelaide, which is a fairly small capital city within Australia. But why limit ourselves to that? So we set out to create a remote agency, and it was actually only after we'd been operating for about a year, maybe a year and a half, that we sort of realized that actually it was crazy that we were only limiting ourselves to even Australians. So we've opened the doors now, and we look internationally for all of our roles, so we can make sure we've got the best possible talent. As an agency, we started in 2021, but we've grown really quickly. So I was the first employee and I started in November. So from then through to now, we're now sitting at about 17 employees across the agency, and we are a full service agency offering development support, strategic support, performance media, and CRM services. And that is something that we're really proud now to be able to essentially operate as an outsourced e-commerce department for our clients. We don't really have a typical agency relationship with our clients. We are pretty much a full service offering or nothing at all, which is great for us. It means that we can form really good relationships with our clients. And I guess the real advantage of that, and what shows that we've done a really good job there is last year, despite our young age, we were recognised as being the best retail marketing agency in Australia for 2023.
That's really great. So,
Yeah.
yes, there is one more slide which talks about your purpose, promise, and principles.
Yeah, look, this is when we started the agency, because there is no one in the agency that is very junior, where everyone is a mid-level or senior in terms of their expertise and their experience. We wanted to really create a sense of what the agency was going to be and wanted to craft the agency from the very beginning. And these ideas that are on the screen now, they're very much part of a very deliberate approach by us to make sure that we are getting the right people to join the agency and everyone is aligned in what they're thinking. So, to take what's on screen really and break it down a little bit, because it's really important for us. What we offer all of our clients is what we call our purpose. What we look to do here is the agency exists to help good online retailers become great. When we break that down, we're a helping agency. We're there to service our clients. We only work with online retailers. We don't look at we're not a generalized marketing company. We only look at online retailers and work in the e-commerce space. And when we talk about good online retailers becoming great, we talk about people who are working in the kinds of industries that we care about, but also talking about people who have ambition. So we don't work with people who are, we only work with sort of sustainable businesses, people who have an eye on the environment, those kinds of sort of good social principles. But also we want to make sure that we're working with the kind of people who want to do good in the world and do good in business. So we are very focused on making sure we've got clients who are ambitious and that matches our ambition as well. So that's our purpose as an agency. When it comes to our promise, this is actually something we go through with all of our clients, is that we make them this promise that we will be delivering strategy-led performance marketing initiatives that drive profitable growth. Again, it's a simple sentence, but broken down has a lot of meaning that's hidden within it. When we talk about being strategy-led, everything starts with data for us. There is nothing that, even though we are experienced marketers, we don't just sort of tell our clients things that we think or just have a gut feeling about. Everything has to come back to numbers. And we're performance marketers, so we don't just do marketing for the sake of it. It is really focused for us on making sure that we're delivering performance marketing that has a very measurable outcome. And the last part there is profitable growth. Because we only work with e-commerce companies and businesses, everything for us is about driving profitability and profit margins. If we can't relate any activity that we're doing to a bottom line, we don't really do it. So in order to achieve our purpose and deliver on our promise, we establish those 4 principles that are there at the bottom to demonstrate expertise, to act with integrity and humility, to take pride in your work, and to think like an owner. And as we go through some of the slides today, it's really that last one, thinking like an owner, which is critical to the way and is something that we spend a lot of time talking with our team and making sure that they understand that sentence and understand that idea, that principle, and they embody it in all of the work that they do.
Great. So, founded in 2021, operating as a remote first organization with staff working across Australia and internationally, and nominated as the best retail marketing agency for the year 2023. That's real quick growth in just 2 years. So, rightly said, James, when you start thinking like an owner, you completely own whatever you do. You are fully committed to achieving results regardless of difficulty or challenges. And that's what drives an organization to success. So, yeah,
Yeah.
moving
Oh,
on.
absolutely. Yeah, no,
Yes.
and just to add on to that, those are really the big ideas behind that, but it also works on multiple levels. We even talk with our team about, thinking like an owner. If you're working in Google Ads, say, and a client gives you a spreadsheet full of numbers, it's important, as if you're thinking like an owner, you remember those numbers are not just numbers, they're dollars, and they don't have to be spent on Google Ads. The business owner might buy another car, or they could do whatever with that money. They're choosing to spend it in Google Ads. And if you treat those numbers with a level of respect, you'll care if they don't work, and you'll care if they do work, and it will be you'll have much more I guess investment in the work that you're doing, and that's really important for us.
Yes. So, yes, moving on. Let's go to our next slide, hiring or the interview process at Ecom Nation. This slide is going to be particularly important for all job seekers as it would give them insights into how agencies in Australia hire. So, over to you, James.
Yeah, so um, perhaps different to other people that you've had speak in this series, because we are a remote agency first. We have a very similar process, whether or not we're hiring for local talent or we're hiring for international talent. It is a very similar process. And it is broken down into these four general steps. So the first step is, actually probably the step before step one, is that we realize we need a position. We do a lot of monitoring to understand where the holes in our team are to make sure that we're hiring when we need to. At that point, we will either put out job advertisements, or we will reach out to groups like Uplers to kind of say, hey, look, we need someone like this, and we'll provide a job description for those people. Um, those candidates will then start to come in, either responding to the ad or served up to us. And the applicants are reviewed by the hiring manager. So if we're looking for a Google Ads person, our head of performance in search is the person who will be doing that initial screening and looking at the candidates on paper. We'll get a short list of candidates, and then we move to step two, which is the screening. Screening interviews are done generally sort of fairly quickly. What we're trying to really do is, as it says there, is to make sure that the person that we read about on paper is the same person that we see on screen or hear on a phone call, where it is a very quick assessment of, is the credentials that they've given match up with the person that I'm talking to? Is the person able to kind of hold a conversation and really, I guess, meet what we would think to be the minimum requirements of the person that's going to proceed to the role. It's actually really easy for us to tell even at that stage if someone's going to be a good mix for the team. And in a remote culture, that getting that team component is really really vital for us. So it is something that we do focus on. Once we've screened our shortlist and it's sort of reduced in size again, the next step is to set tasks for assessment. Again, as it's noted there, technical roles like media buying, it's really easy to set a task. We will provide you data sets, we'll provide you questions or objectives to work to. What the goal there is to really understand your skill level, and not just your skill level, but we want to test how you think through problems. Coming back to, I guess, what we're talking about today, it is about the idea of problem solving and why that's important. We really want to see how you approach problems. Because at that point, I'm not really fussed if you do things the same way we do, or you'd have a completely different way of doing things. As long as it's logical, as long as you can explain it to me, I really want to understand how you think through problems. Once I can understand how you're doing that, if we don't agree with the way that you solve the problem, we can teach you the way that we solve problems. That's fine. As long as you can prove that you have those skills, we can adapt those skills. So the tasks are really important to make sure that you have that technical skill set. Again, we'll collect all of those answers up, and anyone that we want to progress will then go to the panel interview. So steps 1 through 3 are done by the hiring manager, and they're responsible for all of that. At that last step, you're now being brought into, I will be brought into that interview, or one of the other directors will be brought into the interview, and we'll actually have more of a panel. And by this stage, we have a general idea of the candidate. We have a good idea of their skill set. So what we're really doing now is interrogating that skill set and talking to you about the assessment you've completed, but also getting a feel for you as a person. It's not unusual for this part of the interview process to kind of drift really far from work and talk about what kind of things you do in your spare time, what your family dynamics are like, what things, what is it? What was your last jobs, last career? Where do you live? Because we're trying to get an idea of the cultural and team fit. Because yeah, in a remote setting, we're not get, I guess, office culture that comes in, and this is something you guys are experiencing every time you're looking at these kinds of roles. Within our, I think the next one
Yes,
part, the
yes,
next slide
yes.
actually goes into it further. Yeah, no, that's fine. So you can see if I just sort of relate that last slide to this one. Step three is about understanding your skill set. Step four is about all of these other things, which for us are more important. We really want to see, find out more about your work ethic, how you're going to fit with the team, how well you can work autonomously. That's obviously really important. I'm based in Australia. If we're hiring for someone, even in New South Wales or other parts of Australia or internationally, I can't be there to see your work as it happens. So I need you to be able to stay on task and complete tasks without a lot of oversight, which is why we work with a lot of senior people. Um, in the context of this as well, we want to see how what you can we get a gauge on your integrity? How likely are you to own mistakes and want to work through them? What are your solving skills like? And we do really like to start thinking about how do we assess your ability to think like an owner? How much investment do you put into your own work, and how much ownership do you take of your work to make sure that everything you do is aligned with the goals that we set for you as an employee of the agency, but also as a custodian of the client's work?
Yes, that's great. So thank you, James, for sharing valuable insights about the hiring process. And now that we know the hiring process looks like, and it's fantastic. So thank you so much. There are a lot of valuable information for our audience here. So talking about hiring and all, how is the market in Australia? Like, I'm sure the audience would love to know more about the digital marketing landscape in Australia.
Yeah, it's a really unusual landscape when you compare it to other, I guess, markets around the world. It is an unusual. It has some unusual kind of elements to it, some unique elements to it, which are important to understand. So, if you're, I guess, interviewing with Australian agencies, it's worth keeping some things in mind. The first is that Australia is a comparatively quite a big country, and then nobody lives in the middle of it. We live all around the coast, in sort of very dense population parts around the coast, and then nobody in the middle. What that does is it creates really huge logistical nightmares for business owners and for e-commerce owners in particular, because they're still compared with the United States. Things like Amazon Prime with next day delivery is an expectation of Australian retailers that they can do the same thing, even though to get from Queensland to Perth that's a 6-7 hour flight. That's not feasible for next day delivery, and yet the Australian consumer demands it. So there is some interesting elements there for actually running a business. As for the in terms of the internet access, Australians have a really high uptake of internet access. So even though there's some problems with running businesses online, in terms of being a digital marketer, you've got about approximately, I think, over the age of 18, about 96% of the population is online, and about 81% of them are active on social media. So you've got a captive audience that you can reach and that you can talk to. And we're across lots of different platforms as well. So whilst we're primarily on Meta and Google, we are seeing younger demographics actually not use those platforms at all, which I think is probably a global trend as well. But we're seeing younger demographics do product discovery, all of their nurturing, and then convert on platforms like TikTok. So there's very, very, I guess, segmented audiences that we have to work through. So I think when we look at the Australian demographics, they're a bit all over the shop, but put together, the Australian market is really strong. And I think in 2022 that I think online retail on its own generated about 39 or so billion dollars was transacted online. So we do a lot of work in that space. Um, and as I've sort of noted there, the market presents a unique set of interesting problems that if you can take that approach as a problem solver to digital marketing, you'll find a lot of traction in the Australian market.
Okay, so that's great. Great to know that. James, as you're passionate about communication and problem solving, could you tell us more about it? Like, how important is problem solving in digital marketing?
I would say, and it's something that I've been spending a lot of time with my team on over the years as we've developed Ecom Nation, but even in previous roles before that. Problem solving for me is really critical. It is sort of the most important skill set that I really try to probe with my team. There are some points here which you can bring up. I'm happy for them to all come up if need be. But the ability to be a good problem solver as it relates to digital marketing, there are just so many elements to it. So the first thing that I really think about is the fact that our environment is regularly changing. So rapidly changing environments like the digital marketing space with lots of regulatory systems that change, budgets, performance over time, the impact of organic versus paid social all of the time, that sort of thing. This creates a rapidly changing environment. So the ability to adapt to that environment, that requires someone with good problem solving skills. By campaign optimization, what I really mean there is that a good problem solver in this space will be able to see the big problems that are presented to you by a client where they might request certain outcomes and you need to solve problems to achieve them. Campaign optimization is really the ability to break down those large problems into smaller pieces and solve all of the little problems on the way to the bigger problem at the end. Good problem solvers are creative and innovative. And actually, this comes up a lot in our interview process, where you will ask some, sometimes quite unusual questions because we want to see how creative and innovative your answers might be. We have found even in roles where Google Ads is a lot of numbers and a lot of logical thinking, we do want to see how creative you might be by presenting you some unusual things to kind of think about, and how you respond to them is really important. Being able to problem solve for us isn't just about being presented with a set of numbers and then moving on to solving, optimizing accounts. We actually find the best results are when the people working on an account are able to adopt the role of a customer or adopt the role of a client and solve the problem from their perspective as well. So good problem solving and the ability to problem solve critically, which I'll talk about again in a few slides, that's really important skill set as well as part of your digital marketing problem solving skill set. Problem solving, to solve problems, you need access to data. And in 2024, there's obviously lots of data. So we are also looking for people who are able to solve problems based on manipulating and understanding data sets. And of course, we can get lots of that. And if you can read and understand data, you'll be able to solve problems much more effectively. Crisis management and adapting to rapid change are fairly similar ideas. The reason that I split them out and I talk about them separately is that crisis management is really the ability to remain calm and to remember that you're there to solve problems first. So when we talk about crisis management with our team, we're really sort of looking for them to understand that situations can change rapidly. Their ability to stay calm, talk to the client, talk to their colleagues, and understand a problem and then start solving it the right way without panicking is a really important skill set that kind of sits next to problem solving within digital marketing. Problems are rarely simple problems are much easier typically to solve in collaboration with others. And I'll talk a little in a moment as well. But when we ask our team to collaborate, we're really asking people to acknowledge that they might not have all of the answers and someone else might know more or might know different elements of what they're trying to solve. And by working with them, they can become better problem solvers and better marketers as a result. And the last one there's really, really, I guess, important from an agency, as an agency manager. I want my team to be good problem solvers. If we are good problem solvers, then we are going to deliver better results for our clients. And in an agency landscape that's really competitive, the more competitive my team is, the more work we're going to win, the bigger the agency and the better the agency can be. So that's why another reason why problem solving can be really important. If you're really good at it, you're going to be a good employee for an agency and the agency is going to value your contributions more as well.
That's awesome. Thank you, James, for sharing this. Okay, so this slide talks about the recognition over solving. So that's so true. I think the first step to solving a problem is to identify and recognize it. Given that it's such an important skill in the digital marketing realm, could you please share some tips on how can one can improve their problem solving and recognition skills?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've got a few on the next slide, but it's one of those things that I talk about with our team all of the time. I'd actually say everyone on the call now, and probably the people that you work with, have all of the problem solving skills that they need to do to be a great digital marketer, or to be great within the field that they work in. The problem that I have typically is not that we don't have the skills to solve problems, but we're not proactive or knowledgeable enough to recognize the problems that are there. And you can only solve problems that you can see. So we work a lot. A lot of the time we spend with our team is actually spent teaching them and training them to recognize problems that they can then go ahead and solve later. And if you go to the next slide, actually, there's some points there that break down a little bit more about that. So when we talk to our team about how they can improve their problem recognition skills, the first one that we often talk about is about developing awareness. So when we talk about developing awareness, what that really means is staying curious and staying observant about the world that you're in. So what we're really wanting people to do in that, when we're talking about developing awareness, is actually just the recognition that they might not know everything about a particular problem, and make sure that they are taking on the feedback for others as well. If you can remain, I guess, open to the idea that there's more information to take in, then you'll do a lot more. You'll recognize a lot more problems. Asking questions is really important. Within Ecom Nation, we do something at the start of every client job is we send them a list of questions. We build this list of questions, and we build on this list of questions, I should say, every single client. Every time we think of a new good question to ask, we add it to our list, because we think that there is no better way to make sure that we have the foundational information we need to do a good job than constantly going over the really basic stuff and making sure that we understand the really basic stuff, building a good foundation of understanding and knowledge, and working from there. So we ask some really silly questions at the start of every client job, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And it's something that we encourage our team to do. The only silly questions are the ones that you don't ask, because then you make assumptions, and that can often lead you down the wrong path. Staying informed is a really big way of improving your problem recognition skills, and by this I mean all of the informal things that you can do to track the how things are changing in your workspace. So I talk about performance media a lot. It's a real focus of our agency. One of the things that we ask during interviews is, how do you stay informed? And what we're really looking for in those answers is, oh, I read blogs, or I follow the news releases, or I follow Google on social media, or any of those ways where you get drip fed the latest trends and latest information, so that when you come to start encountering problems, you have a good knowledge base of what is current and what is the cutting edge of those platforms, and you can adapt your problem recognition to that with your knowledge, and then recognize that there's a problem to solve. That's a huge part of what we do, and there's other things that you can do to build your information as well, which is sort of the last point there. Practicing critical thinking is really important for problem recognition. What that really is for us is that when we're acknowledging there is a problem, or when we're trying to find a problem, we spend a lot of time with our team to make them slow down. It's really easy to jump straight to a solution because you think you've recognized the problem and you've solved it already. We actually encourage our team to take 10 seconds before they actually commit a solution into it for a client. That might be launching a campaign, or deploying a website or something like that. We ask everyone to take a small amount of time just to think, go through the process again, make sure they've actually recognized the entire problem and they've solved the right problem. And that level of critical thinking is difficult for some people, but it's vital for the way that we work. It's also something that we really focus on, making sure people think critically about the kind of problem they're solving and whether or not everyone is seeing that problem in the same way. And recognizing a problem from your perspective as a marketer might be different to how the client sees that problem. So we talk about practicing critical thinking as a way of making sure we're communicating really well. And that's actually the point that's been brought up as well. We think problem recognition actually comes from great communication. So as an agency, we tell clients when we start working with them, we are a very high touch agency. It is not unusual for us to talk to every single one of our clients every single day. We use Slack for that. So clients are constantly messaging their teams backwards and forwards on Slack, and every client has a weekly meeting with their dedicated team. And that's really so that we can communicate and we can catch and we can recognize problems when they're small so that they don't become big problems later. Next point is there is to learn from mistakes. And actually, you can probably bring up the next point as well, which is to seek feedback. One of the things that we spend a lot of time on as an agency is making sure that if we make a mistake, we don't embrace failure. That's something that gets said a lot. We think that's actually not a good idea. We think that you should be looking to learn from mistakes quickly and move on quickly. So one of the things that we do as an agency is every time something bad happens or something that we maybe don't solve the problem in the way that we'd hoped, we'll have a debrief session that's often led by me, but it can run by other people, and we'll actually go through a timeline of decisions that were made and try and work out where the mistakes crept in and how we can learn from those. It's never an idea of trying to blame anybody, but it's really about making sure where mistakes are made and making sure we adapt our approaches to make sure that we don't make them again. The next point that comes up is to seek feedback. This is a really, really important part of what we do as an agency, is that we're constantly looking for the team to feed back on the work of other people in the team. We have a really good culture in our agency. We have a very good culture that allows us to be critical of each other's work without being critical of each other as people. And one of the ways that we do that, and again, performance media is where I spend a lot of my energy. We do things called account teardowns every week, where the head of the department will take a particular account and will break it down. And the entire team will break that account down, looking for the things that are different, looking for the things that don't make sense to them, and really be quite critical of the account structure, so that the person who's built that account has an opportunity to get that feedback and maybe approach the way that the account's constructed, the problem of making that a better performing account. They can approach it from different ways. And that's a really important way for them to maybe be highlighted what mistakes they might be making and making sure they're lifting their game to as high as they can. And the last point there is continuous learning. While staying informed is about, I guess, making sure you're on the cutting edge so that you build up your knowledge base of what's happening right now, we're always encouraging our team to develop their skill set based on foundational skills. So we ask them to go back and every couple of years do those Google courses, do those meta courses, make sure that they have that foundational understanding, because we're very, very, very strong believers in the idea that you can't solve a problem you can't see, and you only really start to see those problems if you're doing all of these things and you have a really, really strong foundational knowledge base. And yeah, you get some certificates, you get some recognition as you go along the path of those things. But for us, it's really about making sure that when you encounter something that is unusual or new, you recognize it as a problem or an opportunity, and you respond quickly to resolve those problems.
So that's great. Thank you so much for sharing your insights into this. And that's it. Now we come to the end of our presentation. And thank you so much, James. It was wonderful talking to you. And you have certainly shared some great insights on how we can build a thriving career in the digital marketing realm. So
No
yes,
worries at all.
yes, let's open the floor for Q&A. For the people who are asking questions, you can just type in the chat box. I'm going to pick the questions. And for the people who have already written, I'm going to pick it all and ask to you, James. So we have a
No worries.
question which says, how does running a digital agency in Australia catering to international online retailers differ from working from India and starting an agency? Um,
I,
that works for Indian business markets.
yeah, look, I think it's a difficult one for me to maybe give you a full answer on, but I'll do what I can, because we actually do have some clients that sell into or sell internationally. We work with Australian retailers that sell globally, and we work with globally, I guess, people who are located elsewhere selling into Australia. So we do spend a lot of time researching and looking at those international markets. For us, it's about really understanding what the what the touch points are in I guess in the other location that are going to be different from what we expect. And that, relating back to the talk I've just given, I guess, is that we do a lot of thinking about what is the assumed knowledge and what are we not testing ourselves on, because we know Australia, and by default we're always going to think about Australia. If we're not, I guess, testing those assumptions for what might be culturally appropriate in India, or might be the best way of approaching something in India, or anywhere else for that matter, we're actually not recognizing the problem properly. So I don't think that fully answers your question, but for us, really, the key there is to make sure that we understand our audiences and we test all of our assumptions when we're approaching those problems.
True that. So yes, we have another question which says, how would you describe the overall strategy of the agency, and how does it align with current industry trends?
It's a great question, and one we talk about with clients a lot. So one of the things that we see within the Australian market is that there are a lot of digital marketing agencies that are very good digital marketing agencies, but very specifically, we work with e-commerce clients. And what we have found is that people who work as digital marketers and not necessarily specialized in e-commerce, they don't think about e-commerce in the same way that we do. So I guess I think I've forgotten part of the question that's relevant there. But what we're really focused on is making sure that we identify the key parts of the e-commerce environment that we want to be looking for, and we relate everything back to measuring through back to profit. So I think I've forgotten the question. Did you want to just restate the question there, and I can relate back what I was talking there to the point you were making? Sorry, it's very late for me. I'm starting to get a bit foggy.
Okay, so shall I repeat the question?
Yeah, that'd be great. Sorry.
So, how would you describe the overall strategy of the
Right.
agency, and how does it align with current industry trends?
Okay, yeah, sorry, that's the point I was making. So digital marketing agencies, the strategy they tend to have is very often very top of funnel, about building awareness and building audiences. Our approach is much more retail based. So we do a lot of work with clients who have worked with strategies in the past that have generated big audiences for them. And then they come to us and we work with them to actually understand how to convert those audiences. And that's really the strategy of the agency. We do a lot of work to make sure that we're not just converting audiences that exist, we're actually talking to retailers, we're talking to people who are ready to buy, and we're making sure that the strategy is retail focused as opposed to attention focused, which is what we see a lot of digital marketing agencies are very good at. And often that's what they're designed to do. We're not really in that space. We're really after making sure that our strategies are aligned with grabbing audiences and converting them. The other thing that we do as an agency, and there's a big focus of the strategies that we present, is that they're holistically focused. I guess they're holistic strategies, and by that I mean that we don't talk to clients about a Facebook strategy or a Google ad strategy or a TikTok ad strategy. We talk to them about a performance marketing strategy or a CRM strategy, because in our experience, if I'm an Australian consumer, I don't spend all of my time on Google. So to only advertise in Google is not going to be very effective. Our strategies have to be multi-channel, and they have to take into account where people like to discover things, where they're likely to build their brand understanding, and where they're likely to convert, and make sure our strategy reflects that as well.
Okay, thanks for answering that. So we have another question, which is, what type of clients do you typically work with? Are they B2B, FMCG, auto, etc.? As a small and young agency, how do you differentiate your abilities to compete with industry giants like Mediacom and all? And what becomes your core USP over there?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So for us, there is no particular industry vertical that we're particularly interested in. The clients that we work with, just through I guess the context that we've had, is that we work with a lot of fashion clients. We work with a lot of I guess fashion and accessory, and a lot of we've worked with alcohol brands a lot in the past, and we do have industry verticals where we've got a lot of clients, but it's not been a focus. Where we put a lot of energy is actually is identifying clients where we get to actually talk to the founder and to work with the actual business owner. These can still be quite large businesses. We've got many clients that are clearing over $1 million a month in revenue, and they're very large within the Australian context. But we're still getting to talk to the people who run those businesses. For us, it's all about the passion that they will bring to the work. In terms of how we compete against the MediaComs and the larger international agencies, frankly, we don't really consider them competitors in that same context, because they offer a very different service to what we offer. And by that, I mean that we really work very quite closely with our clients. We don't work with marketing managers. We work with owners and founders. And the difference there is that we're very accountable for the work that we do as a result.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I had a dog who was trying to get out of my office. That's all.
No worries. So we have another question, which is, just give me a second. Yeah, where we can get access to copy and modify some of the popular funnel for clients of e-commerce product and service, and can we create multiple redirect on submit web form integrated with
That's a very specific question. Look, I think there are lots of examples out there of good funnels and lots of good funnel systems. My advice would always be to keep it as simple as you can with those things. We see a lot of really complex funnels that exist out there that require a lot of time and investment, when in reality the simpler the funnel is, the less steps you're trying to introduce to that funnel, the more likely a user is to convert. So with regard to that part of the question, yeah, I'd say that the best thing you can do is to have a look at everything. It's really that staying informed and building your knowledge base is really important, and making sure that you have those opportunities to understand and to recognize when a client is asking for something like that to be put forward, so that you can balance that with a simpler approach if need be. With regard to the MailChimp question, not fully across the MailChimp environment. We actually are a Master Platinum partner with Klaviyo, which is an alternative platform, and a much better platform for e-commerce CRM.
Okay, thanks for answering that. So we have another question, which is influencer marketing is one of the part of digital marketing. What are your thoughts on its effectiveness and impact, and how big is the market of it?
The market for digital marketing agencies, do you mean?
For influencer marketing.
Oh, influence marketing. Sorry, I missed that component. Yeah, look, we work with the businesses that we have as clients to understand the role of influencer marketing. Unfortunately, within the Australian market, influencer marketing has gone through some periods of quite difficult, difficult regulatory periods. So, for example, in the Australian market, influencers are pretty much unable to be used for anything in the medical space. The medical space is really highly regulated now, and as a result, influencers just completely steer clear of it. So there are a lot of intricacies and difficulties in the way that we can use influencers. Having said that, I think this year we are seeing increasing cost per click prices in paid media, and we're really looking to our clients to encourage them to build their networks, and part of that is through influencer and more broadly affiliate marketing. So it's a really exciting space to be in. If you're looking into that space and you have some experience in that space, then you would be an asset to a lot of agencies. At this stage, as an agency ourselves, it's something we're trying to develop our own skill sets in. I think there's huge opportunities for really finding a way to make good use of influencers within and affiliates to build networks and communities, and then those communities and networks should become self-sustaining. And that's a great way for I guess to build really brand ambassadors and to build people who are going to go and advocate for your brand to new audiences on your behalf.
Okay, So we have another question, which is how, like a person says that he does not have any experience in digital marketing field. Can he still get a job in any of these companies?
I would say that the short answer is it would be difficult. Having said that, there are lots of ways that you can skill up very quickly, and it's something that we look for when we're interviewing is has someone gone and done those things that are available to you. So, in the digital marketing space, all of the Google courses are free. So if you're interested in becoming a digital marketer and you're interested in Google Ads, or you want to learn, Google Ads is a fantastic place. It's what I actually taught myself to begin with when I got into digital marketing. I started with Google Ads. All the courses are free. All the certifications are free. So you can go. I think it's called the Digital Garage, is what Google call it now, and you can access all of those exams and complete those exams and get those certificates and without actually costing you anything except for your time and the research time. Once you have those certificates in hand, for me as someone who might be looking to hire, I know that you have that foundational skill set that I'm interested in, and I'm now going to be testing the skills that you've shown that you have. I'm going to be testing how you think with those skills when you're approaching new data sets or new problems. That's a really key part of our what we look for. Meta can be a little bit more difficult to get, but there are meta courses available. And whilst there's lots of different ways that you can build up your skills and knowledge, starting with those really foundational stuff is really easy.
Okay. So we have another question. Um, will the media buyer focus solely on either paid search or paid social, or will they manage all advertising platforms?
In our agency, we ask what we're really looking for is a specialist in an area, but a broad range of knowledge beyond that. So we have a performance, what we call our performance social team, so our Google Ads team or our search ads team. And my expectation is that they know everything there is to know about Google Ads and Bing Ads and that space. As it turns out, a lot of people have multiple skill sets. And a lot of broader knowledge. So our head of paid search in the agency used to run another agency's social ads. So he has a very broad skill set. We've just actually completed a process to employ a new person who again is a search person, and they are working within the Google team. Their experience prior to this was to work in programmatic ad buy. So similar but different. What we really what we're really looking for is, I guess, those foundational skills being solid. They can be applied in lots of different ways. But if you're in the search team, then we expect you to be a platform expert in Google Ads in particular. If you're in the social team, it's really Meta in the Australian market that we care about. But having additional skills is never going to be a problem. It's almost always an asset if you can understand what other members of your team are doing and contribute to them as well. There's no reason in our agency, for example, that someone from Google Ads can't go to one of our Facebook ads experts and say, "Hey, I saw this. Have you tried thinking of, this approach? I've had that work in the past, and that's can be a really good way to broaden your skill sets as well."
Okay. So we have another question, which is what if an ad fails to reach an expected target? Is boosting it by enhancing budget the only option?
Look, it's a case by case thing, I would say. So what I would say, I guess how I would respond to that is it is a case by case thing, but if you're recognizing that it's not doing what it's supposed to do, that's really what I care about as a manager. There might be a range of different ways that you could solve that problem. The key for me is that you recognize that there is an opportunity there to do something. And just because an ad hasn't hit the way that you anticipated that it would, that doesn't mean that it's a problem. It doesn't mean that I guess that I should say, it's a problem, but it's not a catastrophe. And if you can recognize that early and change your approach, we've done that a couple of different times with clients on complete campaigns and being able to pivot a campaign live while it's running and achieve better results because we're able to see opportunities that presented as problems and gave us information that allowed us to turn that around. So without getting too specific about the answer, I'd say actually recognizing that things aren't working is the most important part of that. I suppose.
True. So yes, we have another question. How the social media advertising and target audiences is different from India, and we can boom by doing freelancing or full time jobs.
I'll take the second part first. We don't take on freelancers at this stage. We'll either employ people or work with employment agencies like Uplers to find staff to work full time. So we don't take freelancers necessarily on board. Having said that, when we have in the past had periods of work coming through that is heavier than normal, it's not been off the cards to kind of look for people. But we're a young agency. We try and be fairly flexible and trying to be fairly agile as an agency. And we do have some people that we occasionally call in to help, and people like myself who, my day-to-day responsibilities typically have nothing to do with the ad platforms. But if we're busy, I become the freelancer that works on the ad platforms, which is something you can do when you're still a relatively small agency working with with good clients. There was another part to that question which I've forgotten. Can you what was the first part of that question?
Just give me a second, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, how the social media advertising and target audiences is different from India.
Ah, yeah. Look, in interesting ways, what we tend to find is there's very little fluidity in the Australian market. I guess if you think about audience demographics, I guess conceptually, you imagine people moving from age bracket to age bracket and interest group to interest group, and over their lives being quite fluid. The Australian market is a bit different to that. What we see is there's very clear. We refer to them as strata. So there are groups of people within a certain age range have a block of interests, and as they get older, those interests stay the same, and we can continually reach those people. And then the next generation, or the next block of 5 years underneath that, are different again. It creates great opportunity for us because we can be pretty confident if we want to talk to someone between the ages of 35 and 40. We've got a pretty good idea of what a good cross section of that age group within the Australian market is interested in, and how we can go ahead and target them. There is but it also presents problems. If I want to target people who have a particular interest group, I'm not going to get a cross section of, say, ages, because it's very much sectioned off in the Australian market in a way that I haven't seen it as in other places. I don't know about India specifically, but to make the comparison to the US market, the US market is much more open and fluid, and people's interests vary over age groups and over other demographic ranges in a way that they just don't in Australia. As I say, that's a good thing and bad thing depending on what we're doing.
Correct. Thanks for that. We have questions very common, which is what kind of salary range with Australian digital agencies?
Look, for the offshore work that we do, which is probably the stuff that's most relevant here, it is really based on the skill set that we're looking at. So for I guess the most junior people that we'd be looking at, I think we're looking in the from Australian dollar amount is sort of 2.5 to 3,000. I think that includes all of the platform fees for a monthly salary, and then from there it might go to 3.5 to maybe even a bit more than that for the monthly salary of a more senior person. For us, there are lots of different ways that we measure. I guess the expertise of the people that we're working with, and for a lot of people that are in our space, and particularly because we've set up as a completely remote agency. If I just talk more broadly, we've got people working in our agency for less than they could make in other places, specifically because of the way that we work and the opportunity they're afforded within our agency to work really flexibly and with the kinds of clients that they like. So what we, I guess, look for is people who are not just not just coming in for a paycheck or coming in to just sort of do the work and then leave. We're really looking for people who want to buy into the way that we work and the idea and the philosophy behind how we work, and make sure that they're the right people for the agency. For those people, money is an important factor, but it's not the only factor. And it's a really, it's something that's a really important part of how we hire.
Okay, thanks for answering that. So let's pick the last question for today, and which is some common challenges in digital marketing includes reaching the right target audience, standing out in a crowded online space, keeping up with ever-changing algorithms, and measuring the effectiveness of campaigns. It can be
Yeah.
tough, but how can we overcome these challenges?
It's going to depend platform to platform. When we talk about the Google ad space as an example, there it's really about making sure you're analyzing those large data sets and testing. It's really all about that experimentation. We have really good relationships with our Google reps, and the feedback we always get is no matter how much testing we're doing, we're never testing enough. And so we're constantly pushing our clients to really consider the opportunities to test. Standing out in a crowded market is not necessarily about finding that one thing that makes you that stands you out, because that might be a bad thing to stand out in certain cases. What we really want to identify is the bits that work, the bits that meet the customers where they need to be, and deliver them the information they need at that time. That's really the Google side. From the Meta side, the advice we get from our Meta representatives and what we see when we're working as well is that in Meta, it's all about creative. Particularly at the moment with the introduction of new ad sets in that market, the more creative we can test, the better. So we are constantly looking for different ways that we can build and frame creative to deliver better performance on Meta campaigns. It's at the moment at least, algorithms change, but everything favors creative testing. So that's what we spend a lot of time and energy on.
Great. Thank you so much, James. It was really, really great, and your insights have been invaluable. And we want to express our sincere gratitude for sharing your time to contribute to the growth of our community. And we truly appreciate your efforts. Thank you so much for joining.
No, thank you.
Yes, so for our joiners, we have some upcoming steps, and we'll be communicating all the details to you through WhatsApp and our social media channels. So stay connected. And to participate in our future insightful sessions, be sure to register on Uplers. Our website features numerous job roles posted by various companies. Explore the opportunities available for you. And for the people who are not a part of our Discord community, you can join it through this link. And there are many people who have asked several questions which were not addressed in this session, but I'm sure we'll share the Discord link to James, and he'll join our Discord community. And you can ask your questions over there. And we'll share all the recordings and this PPT and things to you guys. So yes, stay tuned for the updates, and we are eagerly anticipate in hosting more such sessions and reconnecting with you in the near future. A big thanks to everyone who joined today. Your presence is genuinely appreciated. Thank you, everyone.